Welcome to the Mastering Energy Medicine podcast. I'm Beth Manning, a psychic healer, and this is the podcast to help you deeply connect to your body, mind, and soul so you can heal the root cause of pain, disease, and illness, connect with your inner wise woman, make more informed health choices, and fall deeply in love with your body and with your life. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, I want to talk about the life-changing power of getting uncomfortable. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately as I go through my own healing work and as I see a lot of my clients going through healing work. And by the way, I love working with people who are not afraid to get uncomfortable. And I think that's really one of the secrets to those who really reach their goals and start to understand their health issues, start to heal their body, start to relieve their pain, and the people who struggle again and again and again to get the motivation, the momentum, and I think this can lead to trying a bunch of different things without getting the result that you want because of that fear of getting uncomfortable. And I want to talk about this because I've talked to people a little bit more in depth about, the people who maybe aren't quite ready yet or are very afraid of this discomfort. And I think that a lot of it is almost a fear that it's not real. It's an unfound fear, this discomfort. I think a lot of people think that healing has to be really hard or really painful, or we have to go back to every single thing in your childhood that was uncomfortable or a trauma or however you want to label it, and we have to kind of pour salt on that wound. And this really isn't the truth of healing. Sure, there's discomfort. Sure, we are going to look at things that maybe feel uncomfortable or cause some tears or cause some emotions to move or even cause some big emotions to move. And I find that the more that we can be open to these things happening, and the more that we can understand that an emotion really only holds its charge for 90 seconds max, and that a lot of times this discomfort will kind of have its peak, but then on the other side of that discomfort is so much growth and relief and seeing the things that you've always wanted in your life starting to come to fruition. So I want you to just hang on with me for a minute. I want to just explore this discomfort because I think we live in a society that benefits comfort so much. It's like we have the convenience of our phones and our air conditioning and, everything is set out before us often. And we forget about the value of a little hard work. So, I might just be the discomfort saleswoman today, but hang with me here because I think there's so much value in trusting the process, in letting go of that control that often is why we want to stay comfortable, because we're afraid of giving up that control of what's going to happen, what's it going to be like, what's it going to feel like. And starting to really trust the process. And this is where I love working with energy because we don't necessarily with energy have to go over things again and again and again and talk about the trauma again and again and bring up your mom issues and bring up, every bad thing that happened to you and sit and analyze it. Because that's really not how energy healing works. Energy healing works by taking you on journeys, taking you into the energy, helping you to get into the energy of truth of what was happening at the time, and helping you to really see the truth of what was happening, because energy doesn't lie. We can have, say a building catches on fire and there are, 6 people, and one person's on the north side, another on the south, the east, the west, and they could all have a different account of what happened. How did it start? Which direction was the smoke blowing in? How big were the flames? Was anybody in the building? Everybody could have a different account of that, right? Because our life is so subjective. And think about this, put this in a family situation. I see this where we have, different siblings that all went through the same, maybe a death in the family, a money issue in the family, a big traumatic move or divorce, and everybody is affected differently. So the way that your sister is responding to your dad leaving doesn't mean that it's the same as your brother or you or your mom. So the beautiful thing about energy is that we can each have our own story, which we, it was like a photograph that we captured at the time, and then we subjectively made it mean something. And then over the years, we gathered more information from other people who were at that site, who were at that time, at that event. And then they layered their meaning of that event on top of ours. And we started to color it even differently. Maybe, we made someone into a villain or someone into a hero, or maybe we made ourselves into the victim. And then we start to respond to those stories and live those stories for our, foreseeable future. But the beautiful thing about working with energy is that working with energy allows us to see exactly what happened at that time, because everything that happened leaves an energetic imprint. And that energetic imprint is based on truth. It's not based on a subjective story of what happened. So a lot of the healing work that I do with people is not taking them back, dragging them through the mud of a trauma, or, let's talk about this upsetting thing again and again and again. It's working with that energy to find your power at the time, to see what you weren't able to see. Often this stuff happens as a little kid, and a little kid's perspective is so different than what the adult version of you knows now. And there's so much healing that can be done when we go back in time, when we go back in the energy. We're even going back into past lives sometimes, or, working with how this energy was passed down from different people in your family from generation to generation to generation. And when we were working with this energy, we can start to find your power. We can start to see the truth. We can start to give that little child what they needed that they didn't get at the time. Maybe it's the safety, the security, the love, like feeling the support. And we can help to go back and do this healing in a very empowered way. So I find, not to diss any other way of healing, right? Because there's so many beautiful healing modalities, so many beautiful things. And I always believe that, people are gravitated toward, what works best for them. But I have been through different things in my past, and I know that to keep dragging things up again and again and again without a resolution, without shifting the energy, without physically removing the energy of that trauma, or that, the lack of care or the lack of love, or, it's not always, a trauma is not always the big event that happened to you. It can be what you didn't receive in your life. That can also feel traumatic. And the beautiful thing about the energy healing is that we can go in there in a much more empowered way. Yes, there's going to be some discomfort. Yes, there's going to be possibly some pain that has to be processed, some emotions that have to be processed. But the beautiful thing is that we can go through this these energetic work, this journey, and somebody can start a session feeling so disempowered, so like I am the victim of life, like everybody craps on me, everybody needs something from me, I'm never going to have the life I want. And then we go in, we start to shift this energy, we start to see the truth of why did you go into that victim energy in the first place? And we start to heal there. We start to heal that wound, which is often the wound of a little child that went through something traumatic, didn't get their needs met, whatever it is. And then they can emerge at the end of our session feeling totally different. Because we literally took that energy of disempowerment from them, this energy that they're holding, and we replaced it with something that feels so much better. This empowering energy of freedom, this energy that is going to then shift their relationships, that's going to shift the way that other people view them, the way that they view the world, the way that they view themselves. And yes, that takes a little discomfort. It takes a little vulnerability to be able to go in there and to do this work and to surrender to, what's going to come up, what's going to be seen. But just knowing that you're protected by, the container that we establish of safety and support, that, you are going to have this transformation happen when we start working with the energy, where the pain is temporary. And we can go to very deep layers without having to have that, re-traumatization happening. And I think the thing that's interesting too is that we're really in a time when there are just a lot of things coming into our energy to kind of disrupt our patterns, to trigger the things inside of us that need to be healed. Looking at the things that are no longer working for you, a lot of that is the energy that's coming up right now. The universe is really showing us right now the patterns of our inner child, of shadow aspects. So these things that we're holding inside of ourselves that are really taking the reins for our life. And, if you're saying, well, this thing just doesn't keep working out, or this relationship is just, so thorny, and, I don't even feel like I can get what I want in life, and, people don't listen to me and things like that. Well, there's probably a lot coming up for you right now around this, because the universe is asking us all to heal these things that are no longer working for us and to release them. So I want you to consider that you might be living with low-level discomfort at all times because of, you're being triggered, you're being shown things, stuff is not going right for you. Maybe you're having some money struggles, maybe like getting stuck in similar cycles or patterns. And that's just causing a low level of discomfort. Versus, when you start to do this work, when you commit to doing your healing work, there's going to be periods of discomfort, but there's also going to be these beautiful periods of like when the clouds part, the sky opens up, and the sun comes out. And I especially lately have been finding this, and I've had a lot of clients sharing with me, is that lately it feels like things are being healed so much quicker when we just sit down, we look at them, we deal with them, we maybe get a little help with them and understanding, why they're coming up. And this isn't a year that we have to go super duper deep in our healing. Things are shifting really quickly right now. And that's what I'm finding even with myself. I've had some older issues come up this week even, and I can sit down usually in about 15 minutes and clear them. I don't need to drag them out for weeks. It doesn't need to be a huge, deep thing because the energy is so quick right now. It's so expansive that when we're setting that intention to clear things and to heal things and to like work on ourselves, the universe is like, yes, I'm going to support you in doing that. And this is just a beautiful energy that we're in right now for some of this rapid healing. We don't have to go to the deep, dark depths necessarily and like stay there, because the universe is really supporting us right now. So I want you to think about too, when we think about this discomfort, it's really finding comfort in the discomfort is really what I want to just help to bring, to kind of turn that light on for you. And really anything that we want to do, if you think about it, we start with a goal, say like, I want to get stronger, or I want to lose 5 pounds, so we start like lifting weights or going for runs or whatever it is that you want to do. So, we have that goal. It's like, yeah, I'm on top of the world. I'm so excited, and then we start and, maybe you wake up the next day after you've lifted and it's like, ooh, I am really sore. And then we're starting to flirt with that discomfort. But I want you to think about, the things that really, the big things in life, that came through, they probably weren't just handed to you. It probably came from putting yourself out there, maybe making an uncomfortable phone call, having to maybe give a speech or go through a really hard program in school. It's like this is how we grow. This is how we grow. But if we're so afraid of failure that we never step out there, we never make that phone call, we never put ourselves out there, it's like failure is that control thing again, right? Like if we have a hard time giving up that control, it's hard to lean into the discomfort. And that control almost always comes from something that happened in childhood that made us feel out of control, where we had to, where we shifted our behavior so that we felt in control of things, so that we could control the level of safety, security, love that was coming for us, that was being provided or not provided. So these things can be healed. But it's a matter of kind of being smarter than those little voices in your head and saying, okay, I'm ready to get to the bottom of this. I'm ready to have some discomfort. Because we know that muscles don't grow unless they tear first. This is the way that we get stronger, is through that discomfort. It's through, the pearl forms in the oyster because of the sand that keeps rubbing against it. So it's this, we need some friction in our lives in order to make a change often. And I see so many people opening up their abilities, starting to want to do this deeper work, to be a different person, to have a different life after they have been through a painful event. Maybe they had a loss or a death or a big change in their life. And these are all catalysts. These are all the discomfort that causes some beautiful growth on the other side. So we're going into the darkness to find the light, but you don't have to get sucked into the darkness. You don't have to get stuck there in order to heal, in order to relieve the symptoms in your body. This is just not the healthiest way to heal. There are definitely better ways that, you don't have to be tortured in order to heal, but you do have to be willing to get uncomfortable. And often what I see with people is they start the healing process and they start to find some relief, and then they'll have a setback. And that's like the real testing point. So if this has happened to you, I want you to really pay attention. So what did you do in that point where it felt like, oh my gosh, I made so much progress and now the pain is back, or now I have another symptom, or, maybe you have a flare up and you're in the hospital, or, something happens. Like that's really the point where I see so many people step away. And I think part of really making it through to the next thing, because I see like healing is like climbing a mountain. We've got, we've got some times when we go straight up and there's a gorgeous view, and sometimes you go up and it's like, oh my gosh, that's not a view. That's more boulders that I have to scale, and sometimes you take a step back. But it's so important to go into the healing process knowing your goal, like understanding, like I really want a better relationship. I want to feel more personally empowered. I want to be able to set more boundaries. I want to, so yes, we're healing pain. That can be a goal as well. But I like when we have more personal goals as well, because we can revisit those and we can use those as benchmarks and keep our eye on the prize when those setbacks happen, when that discomfort becomes too uncomfortable. Like it's really important to have those bigger goals and those bigger visions of what we're working toward. And I think it's also really important to look back and to see how far you've come. To see that, oh my gosh, I am partway up that mountain. I don't know necessarily how high this thing is, but look, I made it up some really steep parts already. So this celebrating aspect is really important as well for helping to deal with that discomfort, helping to see that, yeah, I've dealt with this discomfort before, I can keep dealing with it again. And that discomfort, it turns into strength. It turns into courage. It turns into personal power. And what once felt like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Or I think like my body is broken, or, it'll never heal. Like something is just wrong with me, turns into, oh wow, like I didn't know I had this amount of courage in me. I didn't know that I was this brave. I had no clue that I was this strong and this resilient. And you start to like burn that discouragement and all those fears, and they become your fuel for healing, for change, for all this beautiful transformation that starts to happen throughout the healing process. Because the beautiful thing about healing is, yes, right away we're working on your symptoms. We're working on healing the physical issue that you've come in with. But that physical issue isn't what's actually happening. That's just the indicator light that something is wrong deeper in your body. And the things that are often off, are the things that are causing your relationships, your job, the way that you feel about yourself to feel off. So not only is there a reduction, a healing of symptoms, but we're also transforming all these different aspects of your life, like kind of behind the scenes stuff that it was like, there's no way that that's affecting my back pain or my, my Crohn's disease or my thyroid. But yeah, it is. And that's the beautiful thing. It's like, this healing work doesn't only help to heal your body, it really changes your life. Like people don't leave the same person. And so much changes that they never put two and two together that this was affecting my health. I thought it was just this discomfortable thing, my relationship, whatever, that I just had to put up with. But it's not. Like all of this stuff goes into the soup together and is all part of the healing. So if you're feeling the discomfort, if you're feeling that resistance, I want you to stop and ask yourself what is serving you. So what good is it serving you to stay in that resistance or to resist being uncomfortable? What benefit is it bringing into your life? I want you to really sit with that and be really honest with yourself about why it's comfortable to hide behind the discomfort. Why it's more comfortable to not feel that pain. And I want you to be really honest with yourself. And then I want you to consider the beauty that lies on the other side. So often we think that discomfort is like a skyscraper, and then we're given this like high jumper pole to try to get over it. But often when I take clients into this work, we realize that the discomfort is like really a tiny speed bump. And they're like, oh, that was it? I can do this. That was not the Everest that I thought it was. And we can work with the discomfort. And on the other side of this discomfort, just from years of working with people, I can tell you that there's freedom, there's pain relief, there's balanced, healthy, fulfilling relationships. There's feeling safe to express your needs, to talk lovingly to yourself, to feel good in your body, to not hate yourself, to have so much love and compassion, and to see the world completely differently. So really changing the lens through which you view life and creating this life that you most desire. And I think one of the most beautiful things too that I see with people who go through this process is learning to trust your body again and to be able to do the things that you love the most, that maybe at one point you thought you had to give up because of the state of your body or your diagnosis. So I would invite you to dig in to this discomfort, play around with it a little bit, see what comes up for you. And I would love if you're ready, if you're feeling like this is the time, I want to work with the current energy, I want to start this healing process, feel free to reach out to me. I have a connection call, which is a time for us to hop on Zoom, to talk about your goals, to answer any questions you have, help you get a little clarity around what's going on with your health and where I see, the next direction, the next best thing for you. And just to talk about some different options for what it would look like to work together. So I will leave the link to that in the show notes. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I would love for you to share this episode with a friend, a family member, someone you think would benefit. And I would love a starred rating or a review as well so that other people can find this podcast. And thank you so much for listening. And I will see you next time on the Mastering Energy Medicine podcast.